Hello, and welcome to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I'm Dr. Jaime G. Raygoza, a life coach, psychologist, and your host. Join me on a journey to inspire and transform ordinary lives into something special. Here, we celebrate the unicorns, those who choose not to follow the ordinary conventional path, but rather chase after their dreams and choose the path less taken, making them truly unique. Together, we'll explore powerful life coaching techniques and hear from special guests who embody the spirit of unicorns in their own way. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, I have a global leader and transformational success coach who helps people leverage their fears into intentional bravery. She is a celebrated public speaker and inspires audiences to support others with the tools they need and trust themselves in this moment so that they can go out and live their purpose. She's a best-selling author and the host of two podcasts, Was It Chance and The Brave Files. I'll let her speak more about her experiences and what she does. So without further ado, welcome Heather Vickery.
Hi.
Hi. That's a pretty impressive background. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how did you get into this field?
Absolutely. So as you said, I'm a transformational success coach and mentor. And really the work that I do centers around helping people build a foundation of worthiness from the inside out. So yes, learning to love and trust themselves enough before you go out into the world, finding your foundation of worthiness, value, self-compassion, expression from the inside out, because something is very different in how we experience life when we find the answers we need inside of ourselves instead of looking for that validation and those answers and a game plan we can follow that somebody else has created. Because no one's you. That's your superpower, is you are the only you, and you know what you need. You have the answers. So my job is to help you discover those answers from inside of yourself. And I make that as easy as possible for everybody. Anybody who's ready to show up for themselves. It doesn't matter how much time you have. It doesn't matter how much money you have. My goal is to have a global revolution of people who are belonging to themselves first. So very brief. I was like, that's a big question. Tell us more about you. What do you want to know? There are lots of things to know, but that is the work that I do.
I love that. And I completely love that because it's a very needed thing because especially right now with the pandemic, it just threw everybody upside down. And they're like,
so
what am I
much.
doing with my life? What I thought was my reality is no longer my reality. So we really need people to just help them go through life right now.
Absolutely. We sure do.
So this season, I do want to focus on highlighting people's inner magic or their talents. When did you discover that this was the niche that you wanted to get into?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I've been an entrepreneur most of my entire adult life. I learned very quickly out of college that while I worked well with people, I did not work well for them. I don't like to be told what to do. Ask anybody who's ever been in a relationship with me. And my goal is freedom. And that's my goal for all of you, for the listeners, for my clients, for everyone, is to find what freedom means to you and to do whatever you need to do to achieve that. And so about 10 years ago, I came out of the closet. I closed a thriving business. I got a divorce and I essentially burned my entire life to the ground and rebuilt it, this time on my own terms. And when I started doing this deep internal self-work, I recognized that people saw something in me that I had not yet discovered. So I always say coaching found me. I didn't find it. And people were coming to me, stopping me, emailing me, texting me, calling me. I want to do this. I want to try this. I want to start this. I think you can help. I think you can help. Will you talk to me? And I said, okay, let's just see what this is. And yeah, that was definitely the thing I'm here to do. Now, fast forward many years, and I'm now certified in human design, as well as a number of other things, positive psychology, NLP, EFT, all sorts of things. But human design, for those of you who are familiar, are you familiar with human design?
No, haven't heard of that.
Oh, well, let me rock your world. Well, I don't know if you're
yes, definitely
in the spiritual woo-woo world or whatever. Human design is the combination of several different ancient philosophies. It's a modern scientific method for understanding who you are, how you are innately designed. So it's a combination of the Chinese I Ching, Kabbalah, Buddhism, quantum physics, astrology, and the chakra system. Based on your birth date, time, and location, I can tell you things about yourself that I have no business knowing because it's just that cool. But there are 5 types in human design, and I happen to be a projector. And projectors are naturally here to guide and lead, and we are also non-motored beings. We don't have that go that society is telling everybody you're supposed to have, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And I've spent so much of my adult life beating myself up for being quote unquote lazy or not working hard enough because everybody else does. And now I have language for loving myself and realizing I'm actually more successful when I'm creative, not just
Mm.
hustling, when I'm thoughtful about how I use my energy and how I show up in the world. And human design has helped me be a better person, a better parent, and certainly a better coach because now I know that we are all so uniquely designed and I can pull your chart and I can coach you and support you in a way that actually resonates with you. I help people discover themselves with human design. It's been game changing.
That sounds amazing. And it just, you can pair what is their communication method, how
Exactly.
are they receptive. I'm just ready. My gears are moving.
It's
That's
so
pretty cool.
good. And my favorite thing is there's nothing to fix. So when you think about personality tests or the Enneagram or any of that, there are things that you want to quote unquote improve. With human design, there's nothing to fix. You're not broken. You're fucking perfect. You're fucking perfect. And the goal isn't to improve yourself, it's to know yourself, it's to understand yourself and work with what is naturally yours. So,
Mm.
yes, finding that, knowing how to ask yourself questions to move through decisions more quickly, or where to forgive yourself, or where to allow yourself to go through an emotional wave or a process. It's all so very different. And it's just such a beautiful self journey.
I completely love that. And I think a lot of us are get in the trap of when we're trying to do professional development and we're trying to improve ourselves, we find that there's something inherently wrong with us that we need to fix. I think we need to build upon what our foundation is. So
Absolutely.
you need to know. I think that's a perfect thing to figure out who you are. So we're talking about human design. So I do think that's an interesting concept just in general. I
Yeah.
like it's exciting me because I think it, like we were talking before, you can add it as a foundation for people to start off with, and then you can
Yeah.
build upon that. And I do see your that book in the background says "Fuck Fearless."
I wrote that book. Yeah. Fuck Fearless, Making the Brave Leap by your very own Heather Vickery.
I love that. So, want to talk
Thank
a little bit about that?
Sure. I have a method called the Brave Method, which is my creative strategic approach to problem solving, dreaming, designing, building, and actually having a life that you are madly in love with.
Hmm.
So the book breaks down the Brave Method, and it's part memoir, part case study, and part workbook. So I tell my stories. I share either clients that I've worked with or people who've been on my podcast, The Brave Files, and then something that you as the reader can go out and do to step into your inner brave. And so let me just explain for a second what I mean when I say your inner brave. Look, fear either owns us or empowers us. Fear is a natural human emotion. Sometimes it's really important. Sometimes it saves your life. It's why you don't walk down the middle of the street because you're afraid of getting hit by a car. That's good. That's smart, right? But most of the time, fear is in the future. Fear is not, we feel it like it's present, but it's not something that's threatening you in this moment.
Hmm.
So when you can get cozy with it, when you can take it apart, really get curious with it, and then take intentional action, that is what I define as bravery. And in the Brave Method, BRAVE is an acronym. So it stands for boundaries, what I call the 3 R's: reassessment, reframing, resilience, action and accountability, vulnerability. And then your result is the E. That's expand and empower. And
Hmm.
expansion and empowerment, those are inside jobs. Those are only things you can do for yourself. When you choose to show up for yourself and be honest with yourself and be aware and intentional and inspired from the inside, that's you expanding and empowering yourself. And so I love to combine the Brave Method, human design, positive psychology, EFT, NLP, all of that in different ways, bite sized, easy to access ways that folks can really show up for themselves. Super, super doable and achievable. Build that foundation. It's like my favorite thing.
That's amazing, and
Yeah.
congrats. That's a big feat to have your book published, and
Thank you.
so that's really exciting. I'm excited for you. So you're an author. I know that we went over your whole background. You do a lot of different things for the community and you work with a lot of clients. That must be a lot of kind of hats that you're juggling. How do you keep yourself balanced and make sure that you also take care of you?
Such a good question because I will say that people think I also have 4 kids although one of them's off in college. Like that's such a weird thing about parenting is it is your whole identity, and then they start to fly the coop, and then it just becomes a thing and not the thing, and that's a weird. It's really weird, but it's cool. I really prioritize time for myself and centering myself. That sounds super selfish, I know, but I really want everybody to do that. So I'm very thoughtful and intentional about what brings me joy. What do I want to invest my time and energy in, and what do I not? So I say no to an awful lot of things so that I can say yes to the right things and the right people and myself when I want to. And that's what creates balance. I'm an avid reader. I think this year, as of yesterday, I've read 106 books. We've still got, so I know this is airing in the spring, but it's December, early December. I probably will get another 5 or 8 books done this month. Just, I love to read and I love to listen to audiobooks. And so those kinds of take a bath. In the middle of the workday, if I'm feeling super anxious or stressed and I can do work from my phone, I will do work from my phone in the bathtub in an Epsom salt bath because I know that will calm my parasympathetic nervous system. And the other thing that I do are the things that I coach my clients on. 5 minutes of hypno breath work, 5 minutes of EFT tapping, intentional guided visualization, meditation. Like I create custom stuff for my clients doing that. And I do those things as well. In fact, I was taking a new accreditation exam last week, and it was something that I know inside and out and backwards, but it was like a 3-hour exam. And I was so I'm not a great test taker. I'm like, this is really stressful. And we had a 5-minute break and I went and I did quick EFT tapping and I came back and it passed. It was fine. But I really try to practice what I preach with all of that.
That's amazing. You said two very important things that I want to highlight. One is learning to say no.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that with the clients that I work with as well is that they want to take everything on because it's that people pleaser in us
Yep.
and they don't want to disappoint anybody. And they're like, I literally was having this conversation 2 weeks ago with one of my clients. I was like, when's the last time you said no to someone? And I say no all the time. I was like, when is the last time you've actually said no? Think about it. And
Yeah.
then he was like going around the question and trying to like
Because
fluff
we
it
don't
up.
want to be honest, because then we have to
Mhm.
be honest.
Exactly, and it's a hard skill to learn,
Yeah.
but the first no is always the hardest, but the more you say it, it gets a little bit easier over time.
Oh, Shonda Rhimes has a book out called Year of Yes, which is a fantastic book. When I finished it, I wanted to just immediately start it over. And there's a line in that book that says, every yes is a no, and every no is a yes.
Mhm,
So being super intentional about what you're saying yes to means you understand why you're saying no. And what you're saying no to understands what you're saying yes to. If you're picking people pleasing, which is I think what most people say yes to, they say yes to everybody for everything because they don't want to disappoint people or they want to look like a team player or whatever it is. What are you sacrificing to make that yes? What are you giving up? And if we can really look at that flip side of it, it does make saying no a little bit easier, but it requires being super aware and in the moment. In fact, I have be here now tattooed on my inner left wrist for that same reason. Wait, what's happening right now? What's true for me right now? Where do I want to be right now? How do I stay present in this moment and make authentic, aligned decisions that are for me right
mhm.
now? And so instead of just making decisions willy nilly, pause and say, okay, if I say yes to this, what am I sacrificing? Or if I say no to this, what am I gaining? Is game changing.
Yes, and one of the things that I like to really teach and was my emphasis on my research was toxic relationships they don't just exist, they're made. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is depending on the decisions we decide to do. So what we allow in our lives. So the relationship became toxic because we allowed it to get to that point.
Yeah. So in NLP, we call that being of cause instead of being in effect.
Mhm,
And that is a deeply difficult thing to do to start doing because it means we have to take responsibility for the role we played in something that didn't go well and that hurt us. And it doesn't negate that other people have caused us harm because
mhm,
that does happen. But we do always have a role. And so, given what we now know, this information, this thing happened, who do we want to be in this moment? How do we want to be in this moment? That's profound. Yeah, we have an active role in everything that's happening in our lives. And as soon as we can own that and be of cause instead of just constantly reacting, to what's happening around us, that's when you create real shift.
I agree. And we can't control everything. Like, we can't control the behaviors of others around us. We can't control our work situations sometimes. And I'm not going to negate that there are some manipulative people out there that have
Sure.
their own personal agenda. But we can control our behaviors, whether we want to choose to be in that setting, whether we want to speak out and set boundaries. But
The
yep.
only thing we can control in the whole wide world is ourselves. We can't change other people. But here's what I know for sure. When we change ourselves, the people around us change. When
Oh,
you
yeah.
shift the way you choose to show up, what your mindset is, the way you behave, the people around you will shift, good or whatever
Mhm.
that looks like. You're going to see that domino effect. So it's very powerful to take ownership of that.
Oh, yes, 1,000%. And I'm going to give a perfect example, a personal example for me. I was in a work situation where I had a leader who was not the best at making decisions. It was very emotionally reactive to things, would always take things at the negative aspect, even if it wasn't towards her or anything like that. She made it about her, any decision that was made in the company. So it would affect everybody else negatively. And then there was a lot of gossip and things like that. And I was feeding into that energy for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I let it affect me and I started thinking really negatively about the agency. Even though there was a lot of good things that I loved about it, I focused so much on the bad. When I had that shift, the mindset change of, okay, I can't control what she does or how she reacts to things, but I can control how I'm going to take that input and
Yeah.
whether and how I want to filter it through my mind. And you're like, you already know how she is. You already know how she reacts. So why are you letting it get to you? It's nothing that is even towards me. This is all about her. And I stopped hanging out with the people that kept reiterating the same gossip. I started focusing on my job, started focusing on the things that that brought me joy, and I decided to be that joy bringer in the agency.
There you go. It
I
changed everything, right?
Yeah, yeah, I ended up
Yeah.
being a whole different atmosphere,
Well,
like you
and
said. Mhm,
I was going to say that's just such an interesting perspective. My teenagers will tell you, as they often tell me, not everything's about you. In fact, most things aren't about me. Most things aren't about you, and most things were not about her. This is literally the mantra I'm living by right now. I go through my house and remind myself and chant, other people's behavior is not about me. Other people's behavior. Because it is so easy to center ourselves and to take on, oh, they're after me, or oh, it's my fault, or they just don't like me. When in fact, most people they're not really thinking about you. Everybody's thinking about themselves. We're all just trying to do the best thing for ourselves.
mhm,
And so yeah, all day, every day, other people's behavior. When somebody trips my trigger or when it feels really personal, and it doesn't mean that maybe sometimes it isn't, but even if it is, it doesn't help you to think that other people's behavior is not about me all the
mhm.
time, all day.
I 100% agree. And there's, like, like, situations where if you put yourself in a public setting and do something ridiculous, chances are people are not even gonna notice, or if they notice, it'll be a few seconds, and then they'll just leave you alone. And they'll
Yes.
forget that whatever you did even existed. So why not just do the thing that you wanna do? Don't feel shame, don't feel guilty, just do whatever you wanna do, because everybody's so concentrated on what they're doing, they're not gonna notice what you're doing.
They're really not. Most of the time, no one's gonna pay attention. And when we're younger, that feels awful. What? People don't care what I do. They're not paying attention. As we get older, today I'm 49, literally. That's my birthday today. As we get older, it's such a gift. Nobody fucking cares what you're doing. Do whatever
Mhm,
you want. As long as what you're doing doesn't cause active harm to another person, that's a problem. Don't do that.
mhm,
But following your joy, pursuing your passions, whatever you like. If you love reading, read. If you love watching TV, watch TV. It doesn't matter. It's not about anybody else and nobody cares. It's such a freedom technique to me to recognize nobody cares what I'm doing.
yeah, I completely agree. And I do wanna circle back to the second thing I wanna say that you highlighted before, which was listening to your body. If your body's
Huge.
Yes. If your body's telling you something, like, "I'm in pain, I'm feeling stress," do something about it at that instant.
Absolutely. So this is another thing that's come from human design and NLP for me is our bodies are designed to make decisions for us, to inform us. And we let our brains override what our body knows to be true. One of the things that I do with my clients directly is help them understand their body's inner knowing. Like, what does your body feel like when your intuition is telling you something, when it's giving you a yes, when it's giving you a no, whatever that is? Because you can start to go, you'll immediately recognize that physical sensation way before your brain can overthink it and tell you should or you shouldn't or you have to or whatever it is. But yes, and it's fascinating. The more I do this kind of exploratory, interesting work, a backache is maybe not a backache. What actually is it, right? Somatic work, all of that is just so fascinating. And our bodies are super brilliant and they're designed to protect us. And when we ignore it and we push through, that's when things break.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I've had my body tell me different things depending on the stress that I was putting on myself. There was a moment when I was in my early 20s that I would lose sensation in half of my face. I would just go numb to the point
Wow.
where I thought I was
That's
having a stroke.
terrifying.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought I was having a stroke. And I would go to the doctor and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. But the more I started paying attention, when does this happen? And it was
Stress.
when I was about to have an exam, when I was about to go ask somebody out. I also came out when I was in my early 20s, coming out to an individual, I would feel my face droop and I would so I had to do something to really take care of myself because if not, I would have had an actual stroke if I let it get to that point.
So what did you do? You started to notice it. I love that pattern. That's the pattern I would take anybody through is you were aware. And
Mhm.
nothing changes until we're aware. So that's got to be the first thing. What changes did you make to stop that from happening?
First, I took note, like you said, of what was going on. So
Mhm.
I literally kept a journal of my triggers.
Mm,
And from there, I decided to get professional help. I hired a life
mhm.
coach. I hired a therapist.
Yeah.
I even got a psychiatrist. And I started really working with these professionals because there's just one thing that I say all the time. We're all inside of a jar and we can't read our own label. So you need someone from the outside to be able to read what's wrong with us. We have a sense of what's inside the jar, but unless you have an outside perspective that can make you think outside of the box, it's a lot harder for you to actually treat what you're going through. So definitely got professionals to help me. And I started really focusing on my health and doing a lot of more mindfulness exercises and just really trying to take care of myself and zone me like back and focus on me.
Yeah. I love that. I might push back a little on everybody else can see what's wrong with us, but we can't. It's good to have help.
Yes.
Having help is really important, and sometimes we can't see all the way through. But I urge we do know. We need people to guide us to discovering on our own. Most of us aren't gonna make real and sustainable change from somebody else telling us what's wrong. We have to figure out for ourselves what's not working.
Hmm.
We have to believe and you think about a little kid, you tell a kid, "Don't do it," and then that's the first thing they're gonna do. We're all the same. That inner child is there. So we do need to do the work for ourselves, and as a coach, it's interesting because people confuse a coach and a
Oh
consultant
yeah.
says, do this thing, X, Y, and Z. These are your steps. And a coach just says, I don't know. What are the things you think you should do? And it can be so frustrating because I do know. I know what you should do the thing and then you'll be happy. But that doesn't work like that because we have to embody what we're choosing.
I agree. And then
Yeah.
just to add on to what you said, you do know at a certain point what's wrong with you. And I do want to retract what I said, and I agree. You need just some professionals to help you along the way. And with that, I do want to ask you a little bit more. So if somebody's struggling with any of the topics that we've talked about right now, and let's say that they decide to sign up under your services, what is the first thing you would have them do?
Oh, wow. So the very first thing I have any of my actual private one-on-one clients do is we pull their human design chart and we do a custom reading. So all of my private clients, which the way that I support clients is through what I call VIP coach on call. So we get one or two, depending on the package, one-on-one calls a month. And then everything else we do through the Telegram app and through weekly reflection and journal forms so that you can get the support you need when you need it instead
Mhm.
of we don't have a call for 2 more weeks and we'll talk about it then. That just feels more aligned for me. And also as a projector in human design, it allows me to support people in the time frame that I feel ready and healthy and able to support. So it just works out really well. But I pull a human design chart for every single one of my private clients. That's the first thing we do so that you can really get to know yourself. Now, I have an $8 a month membership called the Spark Collective. And this is the answer that I've come up with. I spent over a year figuring out how can I actually help people everywhere who are really ready to show up for themselves, but maybe they don't have the time, they don't have the resources, they don't have the money, or maybe they're just not sure enough, but they're ready to show up for themselves. So I created the Spark Collective and I made it $8 a month, which that's just really fucking stupid. You can't make money. And I'm like, that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to support people. And in the Spark Collective, I give monthly content drops, which are usually less than 10, at the max 15 minutes of something you can do once a week to just really support yourself. And you can repeat those. And then every Monday, I drop intuitive journal prompts that are pulled from human design transits. So it's energy that's actually activated and alive for that week. So when somebody comes in and joins the Spark Collective, the first thing we do is teach them EFT and how to, and why. So what if EFT is? Are you familiar with EFT tapping? Yeah. So for the audience who's listening, it's tapping on the different meridian points. I have a really short video on what it is, what the science behind it is, how to do it, and then where each meridian tapping point connects in your body and what that releases. So we teach them that. And then I offer morning, noon, and night, less than 7 minutes each, quick EFT tapping routine so that you can pull it when you want it and where you want it. All of that's housed in the Telegram app so that you don't have to go down a Facebook rabbit hole. You don't have to always be connected to your email. You can show up when you're ready to show up for yourself, and we're there ready to hold you and support you.
I completely love that. And it just
Thank you. Come join us right now.
Definitely. And if you're listening, you should definitely sign up. It's very affordable. That's one of the things that I do find a little controversy in the coaching field is that we have the high-end coaches that like to charge for the executives, but then I feel not everybody wants to work with that clientele. Sometimes we want to work with the average Joe that we see every day at a coffee shop or we see at the grocery store, whoever, and we cannot all afford the high ticket items. So making it more affordable for people to get the services that they need is an amazing thing that you're doing.
Thank you. It's really important to me. And I have high ticket. And it's time is money. You're trading time for money. If you've got an hour to an hour and a half on my schedule every week, that's going to cost more money. It's just the way it is because I have a family to feed too. But I chose my VIP Coach on Call platform. That one with one call a month and full unlimited Coach on Call access is only $500 a month, which for a lot of people, that's a massive amount of money. And I fully understand that. But for a lot of people who are ready to invest in coaching, that's a pretty low ticket item. And that also just feels good. And I have had $30,000 packages. I have had programs that cost $1,500 a month. Like I've done that and I can do that, but I feel more and more called to supporting people who don't have the resources for that, but deserve to show up for themselves and do this work. And I want to be there for all of those people.
And I love that. And it just goes back to knowing your why and why you're doing this. And like you said, we still have to make a living. Like, you need to take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
But also not taking advantage of that and making it a way where it can still be attainable from most people.
Yeah. Thank you. And I will say that I fully recognize also that even at $8 a month, it might not be viable for everyone. And if anybody listening really cannot swing that $8 a month, but you want to do this, I will go on the honor code, send me an email, and we will do equity pricing because I don't want anybody to not be able to do this because they can't afford it.
I completely love that. And thanks for offering that to the audience. Now, I do want to go into sometimes individuals that enter therapy, psychiatry, life coaching, consulting, they are on the fence of wanting to get help, but then we set our own barriers to ourselves not to because sometimes we feel that it may look like we're weak, or sometimes I've gotten the excuse of somebody else will need it a lot more than I'll need it.
It's not pie.
No, it's not.
Right? It's not pie. It's not like there's only so much to go around. I feel that way about gratitude. Like I've had, especially during the pandemic, because gratitude is game changing. I've written 2 gratitude journals. Gratitude is scientifically proven to increase overall happiness, joy, and being while decreasing stress, anxiety, and depression. But I had so many folks say, oh, I feel so guilty being grateful when so many people are being harmed. It doesn't work like that. Your being grateful doesn't cause somebody else harm. In fact, your being grateful grows gratitude. It reminds everybody else that something's working. It makes you connect as a society and as a community. So I cut you off and I really didn't mean to. But I think your question is, what do we say to those people who have every excuse under the sun to not do this work for themselves?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to victim blame here. Society makes it really hard sometimes to show up for ourselves. Certain communities definitely villainize getting help. You're not quote unquote manly enough or strong enough, or nobody should know your business. And those are things that you're not going to work through until you decide that's just not true. It's just not true. I can tell you that it's not true, and it is not true. I can promise you. Like, the strongest thing we can do is ask for help. The healthiest, smartest, strongest thing we can do is say, this is too much for me to do on my own. I don't know how to read the label. Teach me how to read the label, and then I will be able to support myself, right? So it's not tell me what's on the label. It's teach me how to read it. It's a foreign language. I don't understand myself. I don't understand how to work with myself. So first you have to decide. And here's actually, I think, the most magical part is decide to give up binary thinking of, I know this has to be true. My invitation to everyone listening is decide, is that the only thing that can be true, or are other things possible?
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as you get out of a binary, I know for sure, and move into a curiosity, let's explore possibilities, all of a sudden, everything begins to change. And that's when you can start doing this work and you can start showing up. And it's not going to happen until then. And I'll give you a really interesting example. I do a live show every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And this past live show, I had somebody join and she commented and she said, I saw you speak at a conference in 2017 and I wasn't ready to hear your message then, but I've been following you and I'm ready now. It's a journey. Everybody's journey is unique, and be patient with yourself and don't walk away from yourself. And when you're ready, you will. And also, if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're doing the social media thing and it's like a fucking hustle and you're tired, and if you're like me, you feel like you're screaming to the void all the time, and then you get a message like that and you're like, oh,
It all makes it better.
what I do matters. Yeah. Game changing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And even sometimes when you're working with clients, you feel like there's not and everything that I'm telling them it's not sticking. What's going on? And then they'll do a reflection of, hey, I've seen the growth of since day one till now. And then you're like, oh, this is why I'm doing it. Or you see them slowly change their behaviors and you have
It
them
is
like,
slow.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is slow. And that's another really important thing. I'm so glad you said that, because I think people come into a coaching or a therapy. I'm not a therapist, but come into a relationship like that and think it's going to be fixed right away. And it is not. This is internal work. It is slow work. It is the compound effect work. Little bit by little bit makes a huge difference. I have a client who's an energy worker. And when she hired me 3 years ago, she couldn't say that out loud. And at the end of the first year, we knew we'd gotten somewhere when she could go to a social event and they would say, what do you do? And she would say, I'm an energy worker. Like, it took a year for her to be able to say that. I have another client who I worked with for a whole year. We met 4 times a month, about 3 months after the program was over. And so we saw incremental changes. We saw things, but there was no big unveiling aha. About 3 months later, she called me and she goes, holy shit, the work you do really works. It just clicked. Like, I just realized how much we've done and how different I am. And so sometimes you got to go with it.
And the way I look at it is we're planting seeds.
Always.
Every session, every interaction, we're just watering it, giving it fertilizer, making sure it has the right environment. And slowly but surely, you're going to start seeing the little sproutlings come out. And that's when you're like, you see all of your fruits of your labor just show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can talk about this forever.
Me too.
I want to go to my last question, which is the
Okay.
purpose of the whole podcast, making unicorns.
I
So,
love that. Queer
so
podcasters unite.
I know unicorns are, I feel that everybody can be a unicorn and is a unicorn. Whether they believe it or not, it's a whole different conversation.
100%.
So what I want to give my audience is really showing them that they are unicorns. However, sometimes they need to do some steps to convince themselves that they are and take the right steps to move forward and grow and prosper. So in your opinion, what is one thing that a person can do to start really tapping into that inner unicorn?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I've never actually had anybody ask me that in that way. Unicorn is a unique term, but I know where you're going with that. I would say allow yourself to dream without barriers. And I actually, it's not a sales pitch, but I do have a free mini course. You can get it. Go to my website, vickeryandco.com. There's a little video and a workbook to help you do that. And here's the reason. If you can dream without putting limitations on yourself, you can start to see what maybe is possible. It's that old concept of shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars, although now we know that the stars are further out than the moon. That's not the point. Shoot as far as you can. And maybe you won't go that far the first time out, but you're going to go a whole lot farther than you're going right now. And it has to start with visualizing. It has to start with believing in possibility, believing in exploration. And here's what happens when we dream without barriers. We go, oh, if I did this thing, maybe I can get closer. I'll use a personal example. I don't remember if I've said this to you or I was having this conversation right before we started the interview. I love France. I love Paris. I want to live in Paris. I have been manifesting living in Paris for some time. And when I was in Paris with my 16-year-old daughter a couple of summers ago, we're walking along the Seine, and all of a sudden I could see a plan formulating. When my youngest daughter goes off to college, okay, I could start with a month. And then I started playing around with looking at Airbnb and what arrondissement I want to live in and what's going to be my cafe when I go in and they're going to go, oh, bonjour, Heather. Like I can start to picture it and I could start to see it. And then what's that going to look like? How am I going to learn French? What am I going to do? And then today is my birthday and I'm fully all the way on board, obsessed with Red, White, and Royal Blue, both the book and the movie. And if you're queer, you're very familiar with this by now.
I love it.
I I watched it for the 26th time for my birthday. But I got actually, okay, hold on, I'll show you guys. I got the French version of the book for my birthday. So if you love it, you know that Vanessa Kelly did all the artwork and it's gorgeous and I love it. And I was like, I want this A because I'm obsessed and because it's beautiful, but B, it's in French. So I can read a page in French and then I can read the same page in English and I can learn French by doing something I love. That's what manifestation is, you guys.
Yes.
Manifestation isn't deciding you want something and it magically happens. It's declaring you want something and shifting the way you show up in the world to make it happen. So when we start to dream without barriers, we start to think of the craziest, most unique, most out of the box ways to make our dreams come true. But you've got to start by dreaming.
Yes, I completely agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. That is amazing advice.
Thank you. Also, I really love this present. Like, I'm very excited. My partner, I was like, this is my favorite present I've ever. But when you turned 40, we did a helicopter ride over the Grand Canyon. I was like, I know, and that was great, but I love this.
I completely love that. And you're definitely putting out in the universe and you're doing the right actions to make your dream come true. And I can't wait to check in from you in a few months, in a few years and saying,
yes.
How is it living in France?
Come visit me in France. We'll go to my favorite cafe. We'll walk in and I will say, bonjour.
It's amazing. And you have to be able to shift your actions to the person you want to be. And it reminds me of something
that person now.
Yes. And there's something that I teach that's basically you need to start building a good relationship with your future self. And before you do any action, ask yourself, is this benefiting my future self or is it going to hinder my future self? Yeah. And for you to know the answer, you need to know what your future self is doing, what their life looks like, and go with it. So if your future self is living in France, you need to start doing the actions.
That's right. I love that.
So you can get into France.
Yeah, your future self. I follow a mentor. I don't know if Benjamin Zander. He's fabulous. He's quite old now and not very active, but he takes his people through, and I take many of my clients through an A letter experience. So writing yourself, basically saying, you're going to get an A for this year, or you're going to get an A for this program you're in, or whatever it is. And you write a letter dated the last day of the program with who you had to become to earn the A, because it's all invented. An A is invented. It's all invented. And then you just walk away from it. And so I think that's a good reminder. Tomorrow, I'm going to write myself an A letter. I'm going to get an A for being 49. And thank you for reminding me to do that. So it's the same thing, your future self. It's like becoming your future self. It's beautiful. What a fun thing you do with your clients. I love that.
Yeah. It's always amazing at the person that they aim to be. And then when they have that, I love when it clicks and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to do this the next day. This is what I'm going to do next week.
Because you
And I
all
was
of a
like,
sudden
good for
see
you.
possibility. Oh, that's not that hard. Like, I'm always like, break it down into all of a list and go with the lowest common denominator. What's the lowest hanging fruit? Let me just do that one thing. And then once you've done that one thing, then you'll, what's the next thing I can do? It's just magic.
Yes, I completely agree. Now, for my last question.
Oh, there's two last questions. I see how it is, Jamie. I see.
Yes. If somebody wants to get in contact with you, hire you, or work with you, how can they do so?
Okay, great. Last question. I'll forgive you. I'm super easy to find, y'all. vickeryandco.com is my website, but I'm Heather_Vickery and Co on Instagram and Threads, which I think is where we met. And forgive me, I respond. You can email me. You can DM me. If you want to join the Spark Collective for $8 a month, which really you do, it's a pretty fucking badass place to be. Come and hang out. You can find that on my website. Get your free dreamscaping. I can tell you this. I love to watch people win. So I want to hear how you're out showing up, what you're doing, how you're showing up for yourself. Celebrate with me. I will celebrate with you. So just stay in touch. I love to meet new people.
I completely love that. And for listeners, as a reminder, if you go to my website at raygoza-consulting.com, you go to the Unicorn Wall of Fame, you'll see Heather on there with her nice picture, all the links that she just mentioned, and a brief summary of the episode. And other quick reminders, episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Heather, thank you for all the good tips and wisdom that you shared today.
Thank you so much.
Any last words before we close?
Yeah, I'll just go out and choose bravely. You've got it. You know the answers. Trust yourself.
Yes. And just be fucking fearless.
It says fuck fearless. So it's complicated. We don't want you to be fearless. I want you to take your fear apart. But yes.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Finding the Unicorn in You podcast. I truly appreciate you listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and gained valuable insights. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. Until next time, this is Dr. Jaime G. Raygoza signing off.